It all starts with our MC, Kim Taeju, getting chased through the woods by some strict officials. As he runs for his dear life, he wonders why they are after him. He soon reaches the end of a cliff, where he can no longer run because his heart is about to give out. This allows the soldiers chasing him to finally catch up, and the squad leader, Jang Indong, makes fun of Taeju, reminding him that running actually triggers his seizures, since he is a mana reject. Indong tells Taeju that it is already the end of the line for him, so he doesn't have to keep running away. In frustration, Taeju asks Indong and the other soldiers why they are after him, and Indong mockingly reminds him that he is a reject, which means he should have died a long time ago. Indong asks him why he kept surviving until 29, which ended up getting on a certain someone's nerves. The moment Indong indicates that the person who is not happy with him is a female, he figures out that the person he is talking about is Honda Mitsui, his stepmother. Indong tells Taeju that Honda might be his stepmother, but he still has to watch his tongue. Without hesitation, Indong dashes toward Taeju with his sword and pushes it into his chest before sending him off the cliff. As he falls off the cliff, Indong greets him goodbye, telling him that Honda's two sons will be the ones inheriting the Paju territory in the end. Apparently, 300 years ago, in the year 2026, the sun suddenly got eclipsed, and mana crashed down to Earth. Thanks to this, 90% of humanity was wiped out and the climate twisted, causing cities to crumble. In no time, civilization collapsed, and 300 years later, which is now the current year of 2326, the survivors have adapted to the mana and rebuilt civilization. However, with the emergence of magical beasts and poisonous plants mutated by mana, a new war broke out. As the war prolonged, a class system that is based on mana aptitude was established. There is the Awakened class at the top, and they are identified by an anti-beast combat force with facial markings. It then goes down to a mana-compatible class, and these sets have enhanced physical abilities capable of combat. There are also mana adaptive, which are normal people who have adapted to mana. Sitting at the bottom is the mana reject class, and these are people whose bodies have rejected mana, thus suffering from mana poisoning. Taeju's father, Kim Woong-bang, is a top-tier awakened, which means he is a master. He is a brigadier general, which shows the level of influence he has. Taeju is his eldest son, but instead of being a top-tier talent, he is actually dying from mana poisoning due to the fact that he is a mana reject. As Taeju slowly loses consciousness, his soul manages to come into contact with a strange fellow. The man pulls Taeju up with his skill so he can look at his face. The moment Taeju sees him, he immediately recognizes him as the supreme poison demon Tang Gun. Tang was the patriarch of the Sichuan Tang clan, the pinnacle of poison and hidden weapons. Back then, when the demonic cult overpowered the Zhonghu, Tang melted down the heavenly demon cult leader with not more than a handful of poison. In the end, he became the absolute master of the Muram, and it turns out that this powerful fellow now shares a soul with Taeju. Apparently, he was in the middle of a cultivation to achieve ascension to become an immortal when his soul connected with Taeju's. The moment Taeju manages to recognize him, Tang's memories flow into him and vice versa. Basically, the two became one, and it appears that Taeju is Tang's version. However, he has been suffering from ridicule because he was known as a reject. Tang finally understands that the soul space they are in is meant for them, since they are one. Tang then tells Taeju that he will be able to become the supreme master of the world if he is able to cultivate the knowledge and experience he has taken from him. In no time, an immense level of power flows into Taeju's body, and Tang tells him to use this power however he desires. With this, Tang signs out and wishes Taeju luck on his battles to come. Taeju finally wakes up to see that it wasn't a dream after all because all of Tang's knowledge remains in his head. Taeju is totally weak and exhausted, but he figures out that he has to survive no matter what. To do this, he has to learn the martial art that made Tang the supreme master of the Muram, because this is an art that makes one stronger the more poison that they consume. This art is called the Formless Primordial Poison Spirit Art. Conveniently, there are poisonous plants around him, and he doesn't hesitate before grabbing a few to eat because he needs to do this to survive. He figures out that if he can convert the poison he consumes into internal energy and form the poison essence, which is a Dantian harboring poison, he can sever the fate of being a reject by reconstructing his body. Taeju believes that he is definitely going to survive and pay back all those who have wronged him, and the first person on that list is Indong. Later that night, Indong and his men are seen combing the woods to try to find Taeju's body, but they have been having difficulties with this. Indong is already frustrated because he doesn't know why it is hard to find just a lifeless body in the woods. Suddenly, they find Taeju sitting in a meditation position, and they are surprised but not scared that he is alive. One of the soldiers figures out that there is something weird going on with Taeju, and he calls Indong's attention to this. They can see green aura swelling around him, leaving them to wonder if it is a mana reaction. They can't understand whatever is going on, but Taeju remains where he is without moving an inch, totally focused on his meditation. Unknown to them, Taeju was accumulating internal energy using poison essence and not mana. Indong is pissed by the mere sight of the dude, and he tells his men to kill him before he suddenly becomes a nuisance. One of the soldiers whips out his weapon and moves closer to Taiju, but just as he is about to strike him, Taiju's senses come to life, and he redirects the dude's hand to hit the tree behind him. The soldiers are shocked by Taiju's sudden reaction time, and Taiju is as shocked as they are because he finally figures out that what he is using is internal energy. Taiju clenches his fist because he has finally found a power that he can use in getting back at those who have wronged him. Taiju finally pulls himself together, teasing Indong, telling him that it is nice to finally meet him again. Indong smirks nonchalantly, telling Taiju that he is not all that, because even if he has awakened, he doesn't have a marking. Taiju scoffs when he hears Indong say this because he can understand his ignorance. Apparently, awakeners are divided by rank, from master to user. There is a master, an expert, a regular, a beginner, and then a user. It turns out that after an awakening, a rank marking appears on the face, and judging by the marking on Indong's face, he is currently a beginner. To put it in Murim terms, the dude is just a third-rate martial artist, and from a talented perspective, Taiju can see that the dude is not all that. Taiju then asks him if he is done with his last words, but Indong believes that he is just an arrogant fool. Taiju prepares to attack, and he inserts coins in the middle of his fingers as throwables, telling Indong that he is about to pay him back for what he did to him. Indong whips out his sword, mocking Taiju for thinking he can do anything with the coins he is holding. Indong assures Taiju that he is going to make sure he kills him this time around. He then orders his men to attack Taiju, and even though it is the first battle in his awakened body, Taiju realizes that he is somewhat calm. He is convinced that this is because of Tang's memories, and even though Mana rejected him, the path of the poison demon remains within him. Taiju is confident in what now resides in him, and without hesitation, he hurls the coins at the attackers, using the flying dagger Art Swift Strike, Phantom Mirage Steps. The coins hit the attackers, stopping them in their tracks, while Taiju goes on the offense, dashing towards them with Poison Palm technique. He hits Indong before he can even react, and he is sent flying into the distance. The last dude on the team is shocked to see his platoon leader get thrown off like trash, and instead of surrendering, he whips out a gun. He points the gun at Taiju's head at a point-blank range, but by the time he fires his weapon, Taiju is no longer there. Taiju easily takes him out while telling him that he was too slow. After taking care of everyone else on the team, Taiju walks over to where Indong is. Indong is groaning in pain, asking Taiju what he did to him, and Taiju lets him know that he might be an awakener, but it is useless because awakeners are powerless against poison. With poison ravaging his body, Indong asks Taiju how he was able to use such skill because he doesn't even have a marking. Taiju cannot believe that the dude just referred to Tang's technique as a skill, and he knows the old fellow will be rolling in his grave if he hears this. Nonetheless, Taiju asks Indong how it feels to be on the receiving end because he knows how awful it is. Black liquid starts to come out from every part of his body, and it is at this point that Indong knows that he is screwed. He begs Taiju to spare him, but Taiju grabs him by the throat and pushes him up with serious killing intent. Seeing that Taiju has no intention of letting him go, Indong tries to play the "do you know who is backing him" card, but Taiju doesn't care as he chokes him to death. Once he confirms that he is dead, he drops him on the ground, and Taiju smiles, telling Indong that he has no intention of going down quietly. Talking about the Samhan Empire, it is a nation that was founded after the whole Mana apocalypse, and it was an integration of the former territories of Korea, China, and Japan. Apparently, Taiju's hometown, Paju, also belongs to the Samhan Empire, and it is a highly impoverished small city. Meanwhile, in the Paju territory, Kim's father hears of the assassination attempt on Taiju's life. The official tells Kim that Indong and his men ambushed Taiju during a patrol, but Taiju somehow survived, and after he was officially discharged, he has gone missing. In addition, he lets him know that Indong and his men had been devoured by monsters while fleeing. Kim is surprised to hear this, and he asks why they would do this. The official reveals that it appears to be a hit that was ordered by Japanese-affiliated officers. The moment he hears this, he figures out that it is Honda Mitsui. Apparently, Honda is the daughter of a prominent Japanese family that integrated into the Samhan Empire, and she is the mother of Taiju's half-brothers, Taepyeong and Taechon. It turns out that she went after Taiju so that the Paju territory could be passed down to her Mana-compatible sons. It is no secret that she had always waited for Taiju's death, since he was a Mana reject, but because he was taking too long to die, she ran out of patience. In the end, she was forced to ask her father, who is in the Kyushu territory, to help arrange the assassination. Kim wonders why Honda couldn't have waited a bit longer, since it is evident that Taiju would die anytime soon. Even though it is a serious matter, Kim figures out that he has to cover it up because Paju needs the backing of Honda Mitsui's family since they are filthy rich. After the official is done giving his report, Kim tells him that he can leave, promising to handle things from that moment forward. After he is gone, Kim thinks about the whole situation a bit, and he concludes that Taiju is going to die anytime soon because it is even a miracle that he made it to 29 in the first place. Even though Honda's actions cross the line, Kim believes that it is best to overlook the whole thing for the sake of his other two sons, who will eventually inherit the Paju territory, rather than Taeju, who is a dead man walking. Since Taeju is already missing, Kim believes that he will no longer see him again, and he wishes that he continues to live the rest of his life in freedom, promising not to look for him. Later on, at the border zone of Samhan Empire territory, Taeju is seen staring down on a city called Guri from the mountainside. He looks absolutely blown away by this, and his boss decides to tell him more about the city since it is his first time. Apparently, 300 years ago, the free city of Guri was just a small city in South Korea, but it changed when it was subjugated by the Samhan Empire. The mountain they are standing on is known as Mount Jiri, and there were an exceptional number of magical beasts that needed to be subjugated. Because of this, the emperor designated Guri as a base and declared it a free city. It has magical beast byproduct tax exemptions, allows certain illegal acts and other special privileges. Thanks to these regulations being lifted, awakeners flocked to the city and subjugations became highly active. This was how Guri became a prosperous metropolis, producing over 20% of the empire's magical beast byproducts, turning into a land of opportunity for people in need of money. Taeju is already bored with the whole story and wishes that his boss would just get to the freaking point already. The dude continues with the story, saying there are many dangerous criminals, which is why it is required that one stays on their toes. Taeju quickly thanks the dude for the insight, and his boss lets him know that he is free to ask him more questions if there is anything he would like to know. Even though the dude is a parrot, Taeju is not essentially pissed because he knows that he is a kind person who offers good advice. It turns out that after Taeju survived the attempt on his life, he left and cut all ties while searching for a place where he can grow stronger. In the process of this, he found the free city of Guri. Since the Empire's authority is weak in the region, Taeju believes that it is going to be hard for his family to track him to this location. In addition, the city is full of poisonous magical beasts and toxic herbs, which makes it the perfect place for him to train his martial arts. Even though martial arts is still an unfamiliar term, Taeju considers himself lucky to have had a soul-sharing moment with Tang before he died. In the end, it is all thanks to Honda for trying to kill him. Since he currently lacks the money and strength to stand on his own, he is growing while working as a porter on Mount Jiri. Just then, his boss asks him who he thinks is the strongest among the party members that they are currently escorting. Taeju can't necessarily answer the question, and the boss tells him that the swordswoman, Lee Hanul, is a regular rank. He says Hanul might look young, but she is actually amazing. Basically, a regular rank is one level above a beginner like Indong, which means she is stronger than Indong. However, Taeju notices that there is a weird pattern in her mana flow. Suddenly, she crashes to the ground, shocking everyone, and one of them spots a mutant mosquito leaving her body. The dude warns the rest of the party, telling them not to get bitten by the mosquito. Taeju is confused as to why they are panicking because of a mosquito. Just then, the mage on the team tells the rest of the team to move, while she handles the mosquito. The mage unleashes a fireball that travels in the mosquito's direction, and it leaves a loud explosion when it finally lands. Taeju then turns to his boss, asking him why they are making such a fuss over an ordinary mosquito, and he reveals that it is dangerous because if it bites an awakener, their mana temporarily disappears. In the worst cases, people even faint, just like Lee Hanul did. Because there are many parties that have been wiped out by mosquitoes before, the boss tells Taeju that it is understandable that the party members are all on edge. Taeju then realizes that there is a poison in Tang's memories that matches the boss's description, and he decides to use the chance to check Hanul with the poison spirit art. Taeju places his hand on her stomach and conducts his investigation. Meanwhile, one of the party members is already suggesting to the team leader that they retreat because they don't have bug-proof suits, and it appears that the whole area is infested with mosquitoes. The dude agrees to this since Lee Hanul has already fainted, and she is obviously the strongest on the team. Suddenly, they hear a ruffling sound behind them, and the team leader tells his men to prepare for battle. Just then, they see a long-tailed rabbit, which is considered to be at the bottom of the food chain, and it is regularly used in clinical trials. The team leader laughs off the threat because he can't believe that they were worked up over a freaking rabbit. Just as he turns around to tell everyone to relax, his head and the dude's head close to him flies off within the blink of an eye. The mage freaks out as she watches her team members crash to the ground, and it soon becomes clear that they are being attacked by orcs. Seeing how dangerous the situation is, the mage tells the others to run while she buys them some time. Meanwhile, Taeju is still busy checking out Hanul's system. Taeju then tells his boss to leave because he is going to stay behind to help the mage. His boss tries to open his eyes to the fact that he has no chance in this kind of situation because the orcs outnumber them. However, Taeju lets him know that he just has to help, and he places Hanul on his shoulders, telling his boss to escape with her. His boss still tries to convince him to run, but Taeju tells him that there is no time, so he has to go, assuring him that all he wants to do is provide some light support. His boss then runs off, promising to come back later. After the other members are gone, Taeju figures out that the orcs look organized, and while the mage is battling them, she realizes that one of the orcs is heading for Taeju. She immediately changes her attention toward Taeju's direction to save him. She creates a firewall, but this leaves her open to an orc standing right behind her. Taeju casually tells her to duck, but the orc is already onto her, and she is even more confused as to what Taeju is saying. Meanwhile, in the Celestial Realm, Tang is recounting his moments for the past month since he arrived in the Celestial Realm, thanks to his encounter with Taeju. He was able to achieve the ascension he was desperate for, but to his disappointment, the Celestial Realm is not all that. It is basically a prison realm where immortals get to goof off, and he is already tired of watching the other crazy immortals act like babies. He calls them mannerless beasts, since he wasted years just to arrive in a place like that. However, he is happy that he met Taeju because it was the connection with him that gave him the chance to reach the Celestial Realm. They basically share the same soul, and he was able to become a master of the martial world, while Taeju was shat on. Since his power now resides with him, Tang hopes that Taeju finds some level of happiness. Tang figures out that Taeju would need to reach 7 stars if he is to surpass the powerful men on Earth. With this, Tang hopes that Taeju grows as fast as he can, and if fate wills it, they might meet again. In fact, he is already thinking of new things to teach Taeju when they meet again. He's in the middle of this meditation when he gets hit on the back of the head by one of the immortal swordsmen. Tang immediately ignores what he is doing and chases after the dude, threatening to end him. Back on Earth, Taeju realizes that the mage won't be able to move in time, and he swings into action. He leaps toward her, aiming to kill the orc before it reaches her, but he ends up knocking her out in the process. Taeju then decides that it is time he shows the orcs the skills he's learned, and he hurls coins at them at a blinding speed. Surprisingly, the orcs have no response to his throwing attacks, and he is able to wipe them out with just a single attack. Taeju is pleased with himself, but then he is left with what he is supposed to do with the mage because he knocked her out while trying to help her. At the same time, he is glad that she is knocked out because there is no benefit to his strength being discovered. He knows that it is going to sound really weird that a porter was able to handle a bunch of orcs, and it might even get to his father's ears. Taeju figures out that he has to leave the scene before anyone else shows up. Taeju smiles because he didn't think he would be having these kinds of worries when just a month ago, he was a mere mana reject. He can't help but admit that meeting Tang totally changed his mind. He brings out his pouch, aiming to clean up the coins before someone shows up. While picking up the coins, he realizes just how stressful it is because he has to go around picking them up one by one. In addition, he has to think about the production cost because discarding the throwables after every fight is going to count as something. Apparently, he will be able to retrieve the throwables automatically when he reaches the 7th star, which means he has to find a way to hurry his growth. After he is done picking the ones on the ground, he realizes that he is missing one of the coins. However, he knows where he threw it, and he starts to trace it, and he soon finds it lodged in a tree. He's in the middle of retrieving it when he notices one of the mutant mosquitoes and he grabs it using his aura. From the investigation he did earlier, it turns out that as the mosquito's poison circulates through the body, the internal energy scatters. For an awakened person, their mana would temporarily vanish, and just as he suspected, the poison from the mosquito is similar to the Murim's energy-scattering poison. However, it cannot be compared to over there because in this world it is a dangerous poison with no cure. Unfortunately, every hunter is expected to wear protective gear since there is no antidote. Taeju believes that he can use Tang's knowledge to create a medicine similar to the antidote if he can figure out the poison's exact composition. To do this, he would have to find herbs on Earth with components similar to those in the Murim. In addition, he has no choice but to eat the mosquito, and without thinking twice, he gobbles up the mosquito. As the mosquito settles down in his throat, he heaves a sigh of relief because the composition is similar, and if he can just find the right herbs on the mountain, he will be able to make the antidote. Taeju smiles because he has just found a way to make money, which will be obviously profitable. Taeju cannot wait to get back so he can test it out. But suddenly, a towering figure appears in front of him, and this scary is a scary elite orc that sends chills down his body. The orc looks down on Taeju and mumbles the words, "Kill human." This only adds to the mystery because not only is it huge, but it can even speak. It dawns on Taeju that he has just encountered the awakened version of a magical beast. Taeju is confident that there is something weird going on in the mountain because the orcs are not even supposed to be in the area. Taeju is still thinking about these when the orc swings its giant axe at Taeju, forcing Taeju to quickly leap backwards. The orc drags back its axe, leaving a devastating crater in the ground that scares the hell out of Taeju. He realizes that the monster is an expert rank monster, or higher, judging by its overwhelming attack power. Taeju fears that his attacks might not work on the monster, but just to be sure, he decides to start with a probing attack first. Taeju hurls coins at the orc, and it goes straight for the head, but the orc's defenses disintegrate the coins, and this confirms Taeju's fears. He figures out that his dagger burst technique will be even more useless against the orc since it scatters his attacks. What is left for him is to try the blood seal poison palm attack, hoping that it will work. The orc then lets out a loud roar that sends chills down Taeju's spine, causing him to hesitate for a minute. Taeju soon realizes how much of a coward he is because he is literally second-guessing himself in front of an enemy because he couldn't take it down in one move. Taeju is ashamed of himself and he knows that Tang would be disappointed in him if he ever saw him that way. Taeju realizes that he got too confident because he handled the pack of orcs too easily. Just then, Taeju gathers up the courage to fight the enemy until he takes it down. He dashes toward the orc with his poison palm, and the orc also raises his axe, aiming to cut Taeju down the moment he comes close. His axe ends up blocking Taeju's path, and Taeju tries to push through with all of his strength, resulting in a powerful explosion. In the end, Taeju is only able to crack the axe, and he is not able to reach the orc's body to even do damage. Even though it appears that the whole situation is against him, he is not ready to give up. He thinks of attacking the orc over and over again until he gets a way through. Suddenly, a blade appears out of nowhere and dissects the orc into little bits as if it were tissue. Taeju is shocked to the bones when he sees this because whoever is able to take down an elite orc that easily is no joke. Taeju sees a figure standing in the distance, and he knows that the dude will be at least master rank. Taeju hates the fact that he couldn't leave before someone else showed up. Taeju is left wondering what excuse he is supposed to give the dude, and he is still thinking about this when the dude calls him a punk while asking if he was the one who took down the orcs. The dude adds that there is no marking on Taeju's face, which means he is definitely not an awakener, so he is interested in how someone like him was able to wipe out a pack of orcs. Taeju is stunned as he doesn't know how to answer or what to answer with. Apparently, the dude is Lee Yoonghak, the Nogodan guildmaster who is one of the city's standing committee members. From the way Yoonghak speaks with authority, Taeju already figures out that he is not an ordinary person, which means he has to be extremely careful with his words. Taeju starts by thanking Yoonghak for saving him, and just as he is about to introduce himself, his boss shows up, ultimately cutting him off. The boss is glad that Taeju is alive and well, and Taeju quickly gives all the credit to Yoonghak, saying it was thanks to his timely arrival. His boss turns around and realizes that he is talking about Yoonghak. Yoonghak forgets about the question he was asking and tells the cleanup team to clear out the trash. Taeju's boss then explains to him that since the city is a free city, it is governed by the Autonomous Committee, not the Imperial family. He tells him that Yoonghak is one of the 3 standing members who hold voting rights, and he is the head of the Nogodan Guild, which is in charge of security. In addition, he is a master rank awakener, and porters like them actually pay tribute to his guild for safety. Yoonghak immediately tells the dude to watch his mouth and mind what he says. After Yoonghak leaves, Taeju's boss tells him to make sure he doesn't get on Yoonghak's bad side. Taeju is surprised that he is receiving an exclusive warning from his boss about Yoonghak, and he asks him if the dude is that bad. His boss explains to him that Yoonghak is not just the security captain by title, but he also takes bribes from bad guys to look the other way. Taeju's boss lets him know that the dude basically carries out patrols just for PR stunts or his reputation. Apparently he was in a rush, and he bumped into him, which is why he called him over, because otherwise, he would have called someone else. Since Master Awakeners are considered natural disasters, Taeju's boss tells him that it would be good for him not to get on Yoonghak's bad side. The dude then suggests that they pack their things and leave the area. Taeju acknowledges this, but deep down he is worried because he knows that he might have died if Yoonghak hadn't intervened at the right time. He realizes that it's been over a month since the encounter with Tang, and he is disappointed that he hasn't gotten stronger since then. He is pissed at himself for growing arrogant just because he easily came across power while defeating a few Awakeners along the way. Taeju thinks over it really hard, and after beating himself up over the issue, he decides that things are going to be completely different from that moment forward. He decides that he is going to become truly strong to avoid future repetitions of what just happened. 1 month later, Taeju is seen talking about the city. He believes that even though the city infrastructure is pretty well established, it still lacks a few things, and a prime example is hospitals. Because it is a dangerous city, doctors rarely come there, and the few that are there are runaways who cause trouble elsewhere, so the citizens basically avoid them. As a result of this, drugstores and pharmacies are the go-to places for people. Thanks to this, pharmacists in the city are allowed to issue prescriptions, and they can prescribe or sell drugs approved by the Empire's FDA or the Autonomous Committee. Thanks to this, the business is booming, and it even makes more sense to buy proven medication rather than rely on an untrustworthy hospital. This is why Taeju has developed the antidote for the mutant 3-striped mosquito, and he is there to sell it. Taeju has been over this for the past month, while working as a porter by day to earn money and gathering ingredients in his spare time. In addition, he also practices martial arts by night, and because one needs delicate control to craft the antidote, it was imperative that he reach the 3rd star of the poison spirit art. Because of this, he was able to do so, and he is confident that he won't get bullied around anymore. In addition, if the deal he is working on goes through, he doesn't have to worry about money either. Taiju is confident that he has finally found a way to get rich, and with this, he walks into a drugstore, known as Beck's drugstore. He walks over to the attendant, and while the lady is still trying to tell him the things that they have in store, Taiju cuts her off, telling her that he would like to see the owner. The attendant is confused by this, and Taiju tells her that he is not there to buy anything, but to sell. The attendant laughs this off, but then a gentleman in the back calls Taiju's attention, revealing that he is the owner, Beck Hong. Taiju then tells Beck that he is there to sell the medicine that he made, but Beck is not entirely moved by this because he believes that Taiju is another peddler. He tells Taiju that he is not interested in what he brought and suggests that he leave. He tells Taiju that if he is interested in making money, the labor market is open to him. Taiju then brings out a bottle from his bag, revealing that it is a mutant three-striped mosquito antidote. This immediately catches Beck's attention, forcing him to ask Taiju to repeat himself. Taiju confidently tells him what is inside the bottle, and he explains that it is taken orally. In addition, it can even be drunk in advance, and the effect lasts for up to 10 hours. Beck screams at Taiju, telling him to stop playing pranks about a mosquito antidote. However, Taiju ignores his complaints and puts 2 more bottles on the table, telling him to test them out and contact him if he is interested. However, he lets him know that he has until midnight and he drops his contact details. However, on the details, he has changed his name to Hyunsu to avoid tracking his real identity. As he walks out of the store, he tells Beck that he is going to take the product to another drugstore if he doesn't hear from Beck by the stipulated time. A huge guy who is an awakener, Park Jin-soo, is present in the room when all of this happens, and he asks Beck if he truly believes Taiju. It turns out that the dude takes potions a lot, and without even wasting time, he grabs one of the bottles that Taiju left. Beck says they're only going to find out if Taiju is a scam or not once they test it. Deep down, Beck doesn't have high hopes, since the best pharmaceutical companies in the empire have already given up on making a mosquito antidote thanks to how difficult it is to make. However, Beck also thinks there is something up with Taiju because he is overflowing with confidence. Before Beck knows it, Park drinks the antidote, claiming that he was the one who said it needed to be tested. Beck scolds him, calling him a junkie, while asking him why he would drink something that hasn't been tested before. However, Park wears a disappointing look on his face after consuming it, revealing that it tastes just like water and that there is nothing spectacular about it. Beck is surprised to hear this, but he reminds Park that he is a potion junkie, and he asks him if he is feeling any kind of medicinal energy whatsoever. Park says he is feeling nothing, and since he is an expert in drinking potions, he is pretty sure that he would have felt some sort of energy after drinking the said antidote. Park dumps the bottle in the trash, saying he basically got his hopes up for nothing, and he tells Beck to throw the rest away because they have confirmed that Taiju is a scammer. This leaves Beck wondering if Taiju is really a scammer, and he stares at the rest of the bottles, which are inside the medication box in his hand. Just then, Park reveals that he is going out on a hunt to catch frogs, and while getting the supplies that he needs, Beck throws the other bottles and Taiju's contact in the trash. Beck is disappointed in the whole thing, and he even berates himself for believing in the fact that Taiju could have developed a mosquito antidote. Later on, Park and his men are seen struggling against a bunch of monster weasels. His team members suggest that they retreat because they are already poisoned by mosquito venom. Park agrees with them, but suggests that they hold off until he takes down the monster in front of him. Park, who is the tank in the team, stands behind his shield, aiming to hold out against the annoying monsters. Just then, mutant mosquitoes land on his skin, and he starts to panic because if he gets bitten by the mosquitoes, the venom will stack up and his mana will scatter, which will lead to paralysis. Without a doubt, he knows that his team will be wiped out if he passes out, since he is the only one holding the team together. To make it worse, his shield is already weakening, leaving him to wonder if he has been poisoned by the mosquitoes. Park is left wondering how everything went wrong because they already knew they were coming to a mosquito-infested area, which is why they even wore bug-repellent suits. However, the annoying blade-tooth weasels appeared out of nowhere in a mutant frog hunting ground. The attacks from the weasels cause their suits to be destroyed, and he has the team leader do what he is not supposed to do and gets hit while being distracted. After they were bitten by the mosquitoes, they actually tried to retreat, but the weasels blocked their escape route, leaving them no choice but to risk their lives and fight. Park is hoping that he is able to kill the monster in front of him so he can get everyone to safety, but suddenly, the worst he can imagine happens. Out of nowhere, one of the weasels lunges at him and shatters his shield with its blade-like tail. This leaves him totally exposed, but then it dawns on him that only the shield reinforcement broke, but he didn't lose any strength, and his mana is also intact. This is when he remembers that he took an antidote, and by the look of things, it appears that it might actually be real. He quickly takes off all distracting thoughts so he can focus because if the antidote is real, he actually has a fighting chance. He whips out his giant blade and confidently leaps toward the weasel. Later that night, Park rushes over to Beck's drugstore screaming out Beck's name while asking him how much the antidote he drank in the morning was, because he would like to buy everything. Sometime later, Taiju is seen walking through the city's market center where he sees a lot of things on display. He has lived in Paju his whole life, and seeing the market in Guri really changes his perspective. Taiju is glad that he is taking the day off because he overexerted himself while creating the antidote, since he had to absorb a bunch of poisons, so he has to rest and digest the poison for a while. Before that day, he had signed a contract with Beck. Beck was exhilarated while preparing to sign the contract, telling Taiju that the medicine will revolutionize magic beast hunting on Mount Jiri. Beck almost shoots himself in the leg from too much excitement by revealing that he even called Taiju a crazy person when he initially brought the antidote to his store. Taiju asks him what he means by this, but he quickly covers it up and he asks Taiju how much stock he has. Taiju reveals that there are about 60,000 bottles, and Beck asks him what would happen if everything sells out. Taiju assures him that he can produce more without wasting time, and Beck excitedly presents Taiju with the contract. Beck had set the official production cost at 10,000 won per bottle so that they can be sold for 50,000 won, and this includes the condition that he handles all drug approvals and patent procedures for Taiju. Taiju is blown away when he sees this because the actual production cost is less than 100 won per bottle. Taiju admits that the price is good, and he tells Beck that with the initial stock of 60,000 bottles that he has, everything basically sums up to 3 billion won. Beck tells him that he has to remove the 10% tax, which means it is now 2.7 billion won. Taiju is further impressed that there is only a 10% tax, which further shows just how free the city is. Taiju then suggests that they do it another way, and he tells Beck that he is going to grant him an exclusive 1-year contract while supplying the antidote for 35,000 won per bottle. Beck is surprised to hear this, and he tells Taiju that he doesn't actually have to give him the antidote that cheaply. Taiju tells Beck that he hears he runs an orphanage because the rumors are all over the city that he is the father of all orphans. He also heard that he funds the orphanage with the profit he makes from his drugstore, so he is only trying to help relieve his stress. However, in exchange, he just wants Beck to provide a place where he can manufacture the antidote. With tears of joy, Beck assures Taiju that he has the perfect place that he can use. With this, the two shake hands and sign off the contract. It is after he signed the contract and received a hefty advance that Taiju decided to take the day off and visit the famous Guri market to buy some gear. Taiju is walking through the market when he is approached by a weird baldy who asks him if he needs a weapon. Taiju is confused, and he asks the baldy if he is seriously talking to him. The dude says yes, revealing that his shop is around the corner, assuring Taiju that he can get everything he is looking for in his shop. In fact, he promises to give Taiju a discount because he is handsome. Taiju is creeped out by the dude's presence, and he tells him not to worry about the whole thing, claiming that he doesn't need anything. Just as he is about to walk away, he is grabbed by the dude who tells him to at least take a look around, telling him that it is not going to cost him anything. He continues saying weird things like Taiju should follow him to his home, which is filled with dreams and romance. Taiju, on the other hand, is freaking out because the dude is supposed to be a blacksmith, but his grip strength is crazy. He is being dragged along by the dude when he has already reached the 3rd star, leaving him to wonder if the dude is actually a master craftsman. Moments later, they arrive at the dude's workshop, and Taiju is actually blown away by the amazing weapons sitting in the workshop. He asks him if he made everything himself, and he assures him that he did, while telling Taiju that he is the best in the city. Taiju uses his observation eyes to check out the weapons, and he confirms that the dude is not bluffing, which leads him to believe that one is not supposed to judge a book by its cover. Since he has confirmed that he is good with his work, he brings out a paper to illustrate what he wants, asking him if he can make 100 of them. The blacksmith checks it out and realizes that it is the willow leaf flying daggers, but he believes that they are too small to be throwing knives. He asks Taiju if he is planning to use the knives himself. He also tells Taiju that the knives need to be made from monosteel if he wants them to deal damage when thrown. Taiju then asks him if he can make them, and he says yes, but he lets him know that it is going to take some time due to a lack of materials. He asks Taiju if he is fine with this, and Taiju says yes while asking him how much it is going to cost him. The blacksmith calculates everything and then reveals that it comes down to 250 million won. However, he lets Taiju know that he only has to pay a 10% deposit that day. Taiju already expected that the weapons would be expensive, but the price is quite choking for 100 single-use hidden weapons. Taiju then tells the dude that he doesn't have to worry, assuring him that he is going to pay for everything right there. He gives him his address, telling him to send the first sample over once it is ready. After leaving the blacksmith shop, Taiju figures out that what is next on the list is some armor, since he has managed to secure weapons. Taiju realizes that he needs an outfit that will allow him to sew pockets into his clothes so he can carry around countless poisons and hidden weapons, just like Tang. He imagines himself wearing a robe like Tang, but he quickly discards the idea because he realizes just how embarrassing it would be. So the best option is to stick to the modern style. Taiju is thinking about the options he has when he is suddenly approached by a salesperson who works for Flame Boutique. She tells him that they just released a new line of magical beast leather armor, and they also have coats on display that very day. She tells Taiju to come and take a look, and Taiju collects the pitch book from her to check out the coat. He realizes that it is a coat made of magical beast leather, and it would actually work instead of wearing a long robe. Meanwhile, two ladies are seen on a tram taking a tour of the city. They spot the castle in the city located in the distance, and this is a castle reserved for only the rich and powerful folks. It turns out that one can only get to the castle via boat since the bridges are locked down. The girl with gray hair is the heir to the Baekdu group, and her name is Jung Yeonhee. She is also in the military academy as a cadet, and she is not entirely impressed at how those with power hide themselves away under the guise of safety. The orange-haired lady with her is her assistant, and she asks Yeonhee if she really came all the way to the city just for a fox leather coat. Yeonhee tells her that it is not just any fox leather, but a Siberian illusion fox leather. She mentions that these foxes have a small population, and hunting them is difficult, which makes the leather extremely rare. She adds that the armor made from this leather has excellent defense, but it is also cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Her assistant is blown away by all of these, and she agrees that it is something worth having because it sounds like a rare material that is hard to find. This then reminds her assistant that her grandfather sent her a black card, assuring her that she can use it freely. However, Yeonhee rejects the card, saying she would use her own money. The assistant is not surprised by this because Yeonhee is already known for her independence, and moments later, the tram comes to a stop at the Guri market. The passengers are told to alight, and the two ladies get off the tram. Yeonhee suggests that they head straight for the boutique because she would like to see the real deal without wasting time. At the same time, Taiju had just been directed to the boutique, and upon entering, he finds a redhead lady attending to Yeonhee and her secretary. He calls their attention to his presence, revealing that he was directed to the boutique from outside. The redhead lady then tells Yeonhee to give her a minute, but Yeonhee's secretary is already worried that Taiju might be after the coat that they plan to buy. The redhead walks over to where Taiju is to welcome him, but she suddenly notices something. It turns out that she knows who Taiju is, but Taiju doesn't even know her. The lady then explains that she was the mage who was at the same party when the orcs attacked a month ago. Taiju finally remembers who she is, and he asks her why she is at the boutique. The mage reveals that working in the boutique is actually her main job, and she only participates in monster subjugation as a side hustle whenever she is free. The mage tells Taiju that she is happy that she met him at the boutique because she has been looking for him. Taiju nervously turns around to leave, asking her why she would be looking for him. He reminds her that she went through a lot on the mission, but since she is looking really healthy, he wants her to continue that way. Apparently, Taiju had given her the credit for defeating the orcs back then because he didn't want to draw attention to himself. He knows that there is a chance that the truth would come out after she woke up, but he was also prepared to move if this had happened. Taiju believes that it is best he runs away before she starts asking questions about what happened. Just then, the lady grabs him, urging him to wait a minute. She then asks Taiju if he was the one who saved her because the Nogoden Guild asked her if she passed out from mana exhaustion after killing the orcs. The lady figures out that Taiju was the one who said that, so she basically just went with it. The mage then tells Taiju that she doesn't know why he helped her, but she is grateful that he did. She mentions that it was thanks to Taiju that she was able to recover the bodies of their team leader and her lover. The lady breaks down while thanking Taiju for the help, leaving Taiju ultimately clueless because he doesn't even know how to handle a situation like this. He knows that it is true that he saved her back then, but he didn't do it for her, but for his own selfish desire to test out his techniques. Taiju then urges the mage to calm down while wondering if he really deserves her gratitude. The mage apologizes if she has made the whole situation awkward for him, and just then, Yeonhee's secretary screams at the lady asking her how long she plans to delay Yeonhee. The lady then turns around to apologize to them, and suddenly she goes down on her knees. She bows to Yeonhee, telling her that she is very sorry because she can't sell the coat for her anymore. Yeonhee's secretary is pissed when she hears this, and she reminds the mage that they already took all the measurements, which means the only thing left is to pay, but she is now pulling back on her words. The lady mentions how difficult it was for Yeonhee to have come to the city just for the coat. The mage reveals that she is aware of the stress that Yeonhee has gone through, but she lets them know that the most precious thing is the coat that they are trying to buy. She reveals that she would have gladly sold it for them a moment earlier, but as things stand, it turns out that there is something else she wants to use it for. Yeonhee is speechless when she hears this, and the mage assures her that she is going to compensate her separately for the inconveniences, while adding how sorry she is. Yeonhee's secretary is about to start another episode of Crashing Out when Yeonhee stops her, telling her that it is time for them to leave. Her secretary is shocked that she is leaving when she already talked about how much she really wanted the coat. Yeonhee tells her secretary that it is fine because the mage now has another use for the coat. As they walk away, Taeju apologizes to the mage, saying he must have caused her trouble because he is pretty sure that Yeonhee is an important customer. However, the mage tells him that she should be the one apologizing to him, and Taeju asks her why she suddenly decided not to sell the coat. The lady is surprised that Taeju is asking her such a question, and she asks him if people have told him how dumb he is before. Taeju, exhibiting his dumb self, still says no, revealing that the mage is the first person to have told him such a thing. The mage can't believe that Taeju still hasn't figured out what is going on in that situation. She is forced to spell it out for him, revealing that she is giving him the coat, and this shocks the dude. He asks him what she means by this, and the mage mentions that she wants to repay him for saving her life by giving him the silver fox leather coat. Taeju replies that he can't accept it, while confessing that he didn't save her with good intentions because it only happened the way it did. The mage lets him know that intentions have no relevance because the most important thing is that she survived, and she received his grace as a result. She tells Taeju to save more people in the future if the whole thing is really bothering him, so that people like her lover would still be alive. Taeju is taken aback because this is the first time he has received such a level of gratitude from anyone since he was born. Since the start of his life, he has always been met with hate and criticism, so he was already used to it. Even though he didn't help the mage out of good intentions, Taeju enjoys the feeling that comes from someone showing him gratitude. Taeju then tells the mage that he is going to take the coat if she insists, and she heaves a sigh of relief before telling him that it is time for him to get his measurements. Meanwhile, in the celestial realm, the swordsmanship master, Dongbin Sion, is dying from boredom. He complains about how everyone wears the same clothes every day while sporting the same hair and white beards. The others can't believe that Dongbin is complaining of something that he is guilty of. However, Dongbin can see that Tang is different because he is the only one who stands out. Apparently, Tang has given himself a nice haircut, revealing that it is a style from another world. He even trimmed his beard and made clothes that Dongbin had never seen before. Apparently, Tang has been walking around in coats, leaving the others to wonder where he got the inspiration from. Since Dongbin is bored to death, he thinks of asking Tang how to make clothes, because if he manages to change his clothes, things might just be less boring, and two crazy guys sound more fun than one. Once he is done making up his mind, he decides that it is time to meet with Tang, and he is convinced that once he gives Tang the heavenly peach of the celestial realm, he will be cool with him. Meanwhile, at Beck's orphanage, the secret vault area has been turned into Taeju's manufacturing chambers. He has just finished another batch of the antidote when Beck's call comes in, and Taeju assures him that he is done with the current batch. Beck is relieved to hear this, as he reveals that they are almost out of stock. He asks Taeju when he can send the antidote, and Taeju is shocked that Beck already needs another batch because he just sent one the day before. Beck reveals that word has spread about the medicine's effectiveness and people are rushing in to buy. In fact, as he is talking to Taeju, the whole store is in commotion, as the Awakeners are all rushing ahead to get the antidote. Beck reveals that some are even hoarding it, which has caused the stock to quickly deplete. Taeju then tells Beck to make an announcement that the supply will be consistent, so there is no need to hoard it, while urging him to set a purchase limit of 2 bottles per person. Beck assures him that he is going to do this, but Beck is also worried about something else. He tells Taeju that there is a possibility that copycat drugs will appear sooner than expected, thanks to how popular the drug is. Taeju assures Beck that it is fine because copycats might appear in the future, but at the moment, he is confident that it is impossible. He mentions that they can also make and sell a different kind of medicine if copycats appear. Deep down, Taeju knows that there is no one who can copy the antidote because it was manufactured with the poison spirit. Beck then tells Taeju that he is going to try to control the sales volume but urges him to continue to supply them. Before Beck hangs up, Taeju asks him when he plans to send the packaging machine over because packaging actually takes longer than manufacturing. In fact, he has already packaged 20,000 bottles that day. Apparently, Taeju has been stuck with production for a whole week, so he hasn't been able to go back to his place. Beck then assures him that he is going to hurry things up. Later on, 2 of the orphans living in the orphanage head to the vault because they believe that a ghost now resides in the former secret base. The boy assures the girl with him that he is going to kick out the dude who stole their secret base. Suddenly, the vault door starts to open, and with it emerges a thick, foul smell. Taeju steps out of the vault with drug packages, and he smiles at the kids, greeting them, but the kids freak out before running off, screaming that they have encountered a smelly ghost. Taeju is confused as to why they are calling him a smelly ghost when he is just a normal dude. Although he hasn't bathed for a week, he doesn't think he smells that bad. He then remembers that he is supposed to meet up with his porter boss, Mr. O. Taeju thinks of bathing first, but he is worried that this might cause him to run late. He is contemplating his next move when a lady who happens to be Beck's daughter shows up. The 2 kids from before are behind her and they are hiding from Taeju, whom they see as a really smelly ghost. The lady reveals that she heard from her father that he is the one who is working on the antidote, and Taiju confirms this while introducing himself. He asks her who she is, and she reveals that her name is Baek Soyeon and that she is working at the orphanage. She mentions that the kids were talking about a ghost in the basement, which is why she came to check. In addition, she has a package for him. Taiju collects the package and realizes that it is the sample from the blacksmith. He thanks Soyeon for her help, saying the package came in at the right time. Soyeon covers her nose while telling Taiju to continue having a good relationship with her father, while suggesting that he take his bath in the shower room on the first floor before he leaves. Soyeon then tells the kids that it is time for them to leave, but the kids make sure to remind Taiju to wash off. After they are gone, Taiju decides to check out the sample first because he's been looking forward to the willow leaf flying daggers. He opens the box and finds a note placed on the daggers. The note is from the blacksmith, who urges Taiju to give him feedback after he has used the daggers. The dude writes in such a romantic way, showing his creepy side again, forcing Taiju to angrily trash the note. After he is done tearing up the note, he checks out the dagger, and he is glad that it actually looks decent because it is sharp and solid. Taiju throws it to get the feel of it, and he confirms that the weight and grip are perfect. Since the daggers came out really well, Taiju can't wait to see how good the coat will be. Apparently, the mage had told him that she was going to give him the coat for free, while assuring him that she was going to send it once it was finished. However, Taiju plans to pay for it, since he now has the money to do so. Realizing that he is already running late, Taiju decides to hurry up, but then he remembers that he has to bathe first. Not long after this, Taiju arrives at Mount Jiri, where he meets Oh and the party members who are already waiting for him. Taiju apologizes for being the last one, while asking if they have waited a long time for him. However, Oh lets him know that he arrived just in time because they just got there too. Oh, thanks Taiju for coming after I asked so suddenly. Taiju tells Oh that he doesn't have to worry himself because he has also helped him a lot, so favors like this mean nothing to him. Just then, one of the party members, Jang Wonjun, spoke to Taiju rudely, calling him a lowly porter, while suggesting that he apologize for coming in late. Taiju tells Wonjun that he is crossing the line with how he is addressing him because he didn't come late, and he doesn't see any reason why he should apologize. Wonjun is pissed that Taiju is talking back to him when he is nothing but an ordinary porter. He threatens to cut Taiju, and Taiju is already losing his cool because he is considering killing him. He realizes that the other porters must have run away, which is why he ended up as a substitute on the team. Oh then whispers to Taiju, telling him to ignore Wonjun because he doesn't want the deal to fall apart because of the amount of money involved. Taiju stays quiet, but Wonjun believes that he is scared of the sword, which is why he kept mute. Even though Taiju is pissed off by the whole situation, he decides to apologize. The team leader then tells Wonjun to forget about it, telling him that Taiju is just a waste of time. Wonjun walks off, while telling Taiju to consider himself lucky because he was just about to cut him. Oh then asks Taiju if he is fine, while apologizing for the whole thing, but Taiju assures him that he is good. Suddenly, Taiju notices that there are only 7 people on the team, and this is a raid that needs at least 15 people. Taiju is forced to speak up, telling them that the number of personnel on the team is few, even though they have started reducing numbers thanks to the mosquito antidote that has just been developed. Taiju questioning them literally pisses Wonjun off again, and he asks Taiju if he has a death wish. Taiju tells the dude that all he did was ask for the safety of the porters that he looks down on, while revealing that he has no intention of going if it is not a safe raid. Wonjun almost explodes from anger, and he asks Taiju why someone who is going to die is talking back at him. His choice of words immediately sends an SOS alert to Taiju's brain. Wonjun threatens to kill Taiju right there, but the team leader, Kwon Dong-seok, stops him, telling him that there is no one who is going to carry their bags if he kills him. However, he tells Taiju that he is not allowed to speak again because if he does, he is going to cut him limb by limb while feeding him to magical beasts as food. Kwon and Wonjun just stroll away while mocking Taiju, and at this point Taiju already considers them gone because they have crossed the line. He is even thinking of killing them on the spot because he now has the power to do so. Moments later, Kwon tells everyone to take the antidote because it is time for them to move out. Oh then apologizes to Taiju about the whole thing, but Taiju lets him know that it is fine. However, he wants to know if they are really going to go with that small number of people. Oh reveals that, according to the information he was given, they are heading to the weasel hunting ground. Apparently, they have always needed a lot of people on raids because of the mosquitoes, but thanks to the antidote, they can take off the bug-proof suits, while also reducing the number of members needed for a raid. Oh mentions that he is a bit anxious, but since there are 2 beginners on the team, he doesn't think they have anything to worry about. He then gives Taiju a bottle of the antidote, telling him that he brought one for him. Taiju thanks Oh while collecting the bottle, and it dawns on him that his power has been able to bring about a new change. He remembers what the mage told him about saving people, and Taiju realizes that he has been able to save a lot from dying from mosquitoes just by producing the antidote. Taiju is glad that he is able to carry out her wish, and he also realizes that his new power has also changed him. It turns out that he has already lost control of his murderous intent twice because of Woonjun and his trash party members. He figures out that the reason for this is Tang's personality. He is someone who prioritizes killing those he dislikes instead of just letting it go. Tang possesses what is known as the venomous heart, and after the soul-sharing thing with him, it appears that the venomous heart is now leaking into Taiju's personality. Taiju doesn't consider it a bad change, since he was too weak to survive in the current world. Just then, Taiju tells O to stick to him during the raid, and O is surprised that a powerless porter is telling him to stay behind him when there are awakeners on the team. O believes that Taiju is joking, but Taiju lets him know that he is dead serious because he has been getting a grim feeling from deep inside the forest for a while, and the ferocious killing intent that he is getting is actually directed at them. In the Murim in those days, Tang had gone after the conspirators who were working with the demonic cult. Tang once went after one of the collaborators. The dude begged for his life, claiming that they were set up. But Tang is not one to hear that. He mentions that he is aware of the fact that the group has killed countless civilians to make the demonic blood pill. In fact, the lightning demon, Juga Cheon, had used his own son, and Tang is pissed about all of this. He mercilessly puts Juga on his knees before finishing him off with a powerful attack, tearing him apart while promising to send the rest of his fellows to him. Back on Mount Jiri, the party has managed to take down a bunch of weasel monsters. Woonjun boasts about how easy it is to take down the weasels since they are not being tied down by the weight of the bug-repellent suits. They have gathered a bunch of energy crystals that Woonjun is happy about. He uses the opportunity to talk trash about Taiju, telling him that they don't need a large number of people because they are already enough, while dunking on him, saying he is stuck being a porter because he is a scaredy cat. O can sense the anger brewing inside Taiju, and he quickly speaks while tapping Taiju's chest. He wants Taiju to admit that he is wrong just for peace to reign, but Taiju can't believe that Woonjun is acting all high and mighty thanks to the antidote that he made. He starts thinking of killing them already since they are dead men walking. However, he decides to hold back because he is not ready to use trash like them as target samples for his willow leaf flying daggers. Basically, the party are able to hunt down a bunch of weasels thanks to the antidote, but he wonders how they are going to handle the real danger that is lurking in the shadows. Taiju then tells O that the carnage is about to begin, and he should not forget what he told him about staying close to him. O is confused as he asks Taiju what exactly is starting. Taiju replies that it is nothing much, but it is something that is known for being difficult to deal with on the mountain, which is a magical beast attack. Suddenly, a red-furred wolf emerges in the distance, and it looks absolutely scary. Sweat runs down O's face when he sees this, but Taiju assures him that he has nothing to worry about. O doesn't believe a word coming out of Taiju's mouth, and he suggests that they run away because this is a monster that requires at least a regular rank to face. Even though one is already a problem, the situation is always more disastrous because they move as a pair, a male and a female. Woonjun tries to act tough by swinging his sword at one of the wolves, but it dodges his attack, and in fear he calls for Quan, asking him what they should do. Suddenly, Quan turns tail and runs off into the distance, abandoning his team members. One of the party members walks up to Woonjun, crying into his ear, saying that they are screwed, but Woonjun yells at her, telling her that they are just going to handle the whole situation the way they usually do. He tells her that they are just going to throw the porters to the wolves as bait, which is how they have always done things. O then turns to Taiju, telling him to show him something because he can't just trust him with the words of his mouth. Taiju replies that he is going to show him something, and he brings out one of his daggers. Using the flying dagger art, he hurls it at Woonjun's right ear, cleanly cutting it off, and the dagger lodges itself in a rock, thanks to the powerful momentum it generated. O is shocked when he sees this, and Taiju expresses his dislike of Woonjun and his members, saying that they are a piece of trash. The dagger that Taiju threw had cut off Woonjun's right ear before hitting a rock, barely missing Quan, who was trying to escape. Suddenly, Woonjun realizes that the wolf standing in front of him is already dead, leaving him to wonder when it happened. It turns out that the dagger chipped off his ear, killed the wolf, and still blocked Quan from leaving. O turns to Taiju, asking him how he was able to take the wolf down in one blow. The other wolf is devastated by its partner's death, but before it can make a move, Taiju unleashes his aura, telling the wolf to be a good boy because if it tries anything funny, he is going to end its life. Taiju then asks the Awakeners if this is what they do every time the situation doesn't go the way they plan it. Woonjun arrogantly asks him why he cares what they do, while saying it is natural for weak fellows to die for the sake of the awakened. Taiju is glad with his answer, and he tells him that he is about to experience the same feeling. Taiju then leaps onto the rock beside them so he can get a proper view. He unleashes the wolf on them, and he tells the Awakeners to fight it. Taiju sits down calmly as if he is about to enjoy a movie, and he tells them that he already took care of one of the wolves, so the other one shouldn't be much of a problem. Quan, who also lost an ear, thinks Taiju is messing around, and he asks him if he thinks he can get away with messing with Awakeners. However, the lady in the team begs Taiju to kill the wolf for them, while promising that they are going to pay him a heavy sum. Woonjun simply tells the lady to keep her mouth shut while calling her the B word. Suddenly, a dagger flies past his left ear, chipping it off, ultimately rendering him earless. Taiju tells him that he doesn't have needs for his ears, since it is hard for him to comprehend human speech. With a terrifying aura, Taiju repeats himself, reminding the Awakeners that he is the porter and they are the combatants. Since they were so full of energy when they were fighting the weasels earlier, Taiju lets them know that he is expecting the same excitement from them. Woonjun asks him if he thinks they are going to do what he says, and since they are refusing to listen to him, he lets them know that the wolf has plans for them. Seeing that the wolf is about to attack them, Woonjun prepares to fight, but before he can even react, his head flies off his neck. Quan also thinks he is a big shot, but the wolf descends on him and crushes him too. The other two then try to run away, but the wolf terminates them. After he is done with them, O notices that the beast is walking close to him, and he calls Taiju in fear. Taiju then realizes that the beast has gained confidence by killing the other Awakeners. Taiju actually has plans to spare the wolf because he had already shown it the difference in their levels. Since this is the case, Taiju concludes that there is no choice but for the wolf to die. He leaps toward the wolf and smacks it into the ground with his poison palm, leaving a big explosion that rocks the area. O is left in shock because Taiju didn't even have a marking, and he is that strong, leaving him to wonder why Taiju is working as a freaking porter. It starts to dawn on O that Taiju might have been the one who defeated the orcs last time. He realizes that Taiju must have claimed that the mage was the one who did it so he could hide his powers. Taiju then starts walking toward O, talking about how refreshing it is to use his powers because he has been stuck making antidotes for quite some time. O freezes in fear because he believes that he is going to die at Taiju's hands. The moment Taiju gets close to him to ask him if he is fine, O crashes to his knees, begging Taiju to spare his life. Taiju laughs nervously, telling O that he has no reason to kill him. O is surprised that Taiju has no intention of killing him, and Taiju urges him to get back on his feet, asking him if he is hurt anywhere, and O assures him that he is not. Since he is fine, Taiju tells him that he has a favor to ask him, and O tells him to say the word. Taiju starts by mentioning what O just witnessed, but O cuts in, saying he didn't see anything because he is legally blind. Taiju is glad that O is cooperative, and he suggests that they head back down the mountain. As they are about to leave, Taiju believes that the bodies will be eaten by magical beasts, just like it happens in Mount Surak. Even though he didn't kill them directly, but led them to their deaths, Taiju feels no sense of guilt whatsoever. In fact, both of his personalities feel no guilt concerning the deaths of the trash individuals. Taiju is prepared to kill anyone who uses the weak as shields just to survive because they are scumbags, just like the Jug clan. Later on, inside Guri Castle, which houses YJ Pharmacy headquarters, a couple of important fellows are having a meeting in the meeting room. They are pissed that no one comes to their drugstore again, since Beck started selling the antidote. The president of Sejipyeong drugstore, Nambok, mentions that they own the majority of the pharmacies in the city, but they can't get their hands on Beck's drugstore because the autonomy committee blocked them from touching him since he feeds the orphans. Lee Gilho, the president of Nuri drugstore, believes that all of it is a farce, and Nambok suggests that Gilho provide a solution instead of just blindly crashing out. Jo Seok of the YJ Pharmacy urges the two to calm down and stop fighting in every meeting. Seok then suggests that they stop beating around the bush and just share their progress, since they are all in the same boat. They are all worried that they have failed at making the antidote, and Nambok says they are going to make the antidote soon enough because it is just a matter of time. Gilho yells at him, telling him that they all know it is going to come in the future, but they are worried about the present since they are about to go bankrupt. Seok then tells the two that they have no choice but to do things their usual way without having to worry about the autonomy committee. Gilho is happy to hear this because it is exactly what he wants to hear. Gilho asks him if the investigation is already done, and Seok turns on the projector, telling them to take a look at what he is about to show them. Seok lets them know that the person who developed the antidote is Taiju, Kim's eldest son. Since Kim is a brigadier general, Nambok is worried that they might be going after a target too big for them. However, Seok tells them that everything on the surface is just a farce because the real information is still deep down. He mentions that according to their informants in Paju, Taiju is a Mana reject, and he only joined the military because he was kicked out of the house. His biological mother is dead, and his father is married to a new wife, who is a woman of Japanese descent. Since Taiju has already cut off all contact from home, Nambok is planning to meet Taiju first because he is confident that no matter how much Beck promised him, they will be able to convince him with more money. And if he ends up refusing, they are just going to proceed with their usual methods. At the same time, at the Imperial Army base on Mount Jiri, the commander of the base gets the information that he requested. Apparently, the report is from the Autonomy Committee, and it is all about Taiju. The commander is surprised to hear that Taiju is Kim's son. Apparently, they once requested a supply contract that was rejected before due to a lack of stock. Thanks to the Emperor's verdict, they could not interfere with Guri too, so they just gave up. However, this provides a new lead, and since Taiju is Kim's son, the commander believes that things might work out smoothly. It turns out that the dude is looking to launch a large-scale subjugation on Mount Jiri if they are able to secure the antidote to prevent the mountain's magical beast wave. Since they are still father and son and they haven't disowned each other, the commander is convinced that securing the supply is practically guaranteed. It turns out that this commander is Jin Hyung, and he is also a master rank awakener who is a lieutenant general in the military. He then tells his assistant to contact Paju immediately because he would like to speak to Brigadier General Kim. Shortly afterward, Kim receives a call from the lieutenant general concerning his son's antidote production, and his wife is also in the room when the call comes in. Honda wastes no time talking about how Taiju is now a nice boy, and she suggests that they get tickets to fly down to Guri in no time. She claims that Taiju has little social experience, and since he has a lot of money on his hands, he might get scammed. However, Kim tells the woman to leave Taiju alone. She is surprised to hear this, and Kim reiterates his word, telling Honda that Taiju has already been removed from their family register, so he is a child who left their bosom. Honda disagrees, saying the family register is just a sham because no one can easily sever a bond given by the heavens, which means they still have to help him. Kim is tired of repeating himself, and he tells Honda to let Taiju be if she has any conscience left in her cold heart. Honda is shocked to hear this, leaving her to wonder if Kim already knows about the assassination attempt. Nonetheless, she believes that she has nothing to worry about because no evidence can be traced back to her since Indong is already dead. Honda yells at Kim, telling him to tell Taiju to at least supply the military with the antidote because this might lead to a promotion for him, since the military believes that he knows how to persuade Taiju. Honda screams at him, asking him how long he thinks Kyushu will continue to support Paju because Kyushu is currently struggling too. She mentions that getting the tuition for Taepyeong and Taecheon is also hard at the moment. She tries to emotionally blackmail him, saying the two are also his children, but Kim simply tells him to go to Taiju himself. Frustrated, Honda walks out of the room, telling Kim to do what he likes, and she will also do things her own way. After she is gone, Kim heaves a sigh of relief because he thought his son was actually dead, since there was no contact from him for months. However, it appears that he was living quite well in Guri, and Kim is grateful that Taeju is spending his remaining life meaningfully. Meanwhile, at the Guri market, Taeju heads to the Flame Boutique because he gets the news that his 4 billion coat is ready. He wears it, and it happens to be his perfect size. The feel is also pretty good, and he thanks the mage for it, while admitting that a coat made from magical beast byproducts is definitely different. He adds that it is light, but still has high defense and even temperature control functions. Taeju thanks the mage for dyeing it gray to make it less flashy. As if that is not enough, Taeju is blown away by the amount of space that the mage made into the coat. The mage admits that he thought about it while she was altering, but after seeing how many weapons he carries, she figures out that he is an awakened in the stealth line. Taeju nervously chuckles, saying yes because he doesn't have any other explanation. Taeju then tells the mage that he can't accept the coat for free and demands to know the price. However, the mage refuses, saying it is the price for her life, so she doesn't mind. Taeju says he is pretty sure the whole thing put her in a difficult position because she is giving him something someone else reserved. The mage assures him that he has nothing to worry about because she already sent Yeonhee another item afterwards. Since she is refusing to accept pay, Taeju turns to a section of the shop and asks the mage to give him everything there. He reveals that it is going to be a gift for the orphanage kids, and it will also boost the mage's sales, so it is a win-win situation. Seeing how much he is insisting on it, she agrees and then tells Taeju to give her a moment while she packs everything up. As she walks off, she thinks about how much of a good person Taeju is. Just then, Seok enters the store, telling Taeju that he has been looking for him. He introduces himself and presents his business card to Taeju, but Taeju rejects it with clear disgust on his face. Seok believes that Taeju is uncomfortable with the sudden visit, and Taeju is glad that he knows. He then asks him what he wants and how he finds his location. Seok boasts about his reach in the city, saying there is nothing the association pharmacy doesn't know in the city. He then tells Taeju that he is not going to cut corners, and he lets him know that he wants the mosquito poison antidote to be supplied to his group as well. Taeju smiles, asking if he is asking for a favor or if he is threatening him. Seok replies that it is a favor at the moment, and Taeju lets him know that he is not interested. Seok continues by saying he is going to handle the cancellation fee, while giving Taeju 3 times the supply price that Beck gave him. Taeju still refuses the offer, saying he is not a dishonest person. Seok is not ready to give up, and he urges Taeju to sell the formula for 5 billion, and Taeju asks him if he would sell the formula at such a low price if he were in his shoes. Seok is ultimately pissed that he is getting rejected, and he tells Taeju that he might have a hard time in Guri because of this, but Taeju lets him know that he doesn't have anything to worry about because he can take care of himself. By the time the mage returns, Seok is already gone, and she is surprised that she didn't hear anyone since she believed that there was someone else there. Taiju tells her that she doesn't have to worry because the dude is just a peddler and he has sent him off. Meanwhile, Seok has put a call through to his associate telling him that it is time for them to start the operation and do it like they usually do. Later on, at the outskirts of the city where Taiju's mansion is being constructed, Taiju shows up with gift bags and Beck asks him what he is holding. Taiju reveals that since Beck is always helping him, he simply bought some clothes for the kids in appreciation. Beck is blown away by this, and he hugs Taiju tightly, telling him that he is a brilliant light. He assures him that he is never going to forget the grace, telling him that he is going to do more moving forward. Taiju is glad that he likes them, and he thanks Beck for helping him purchase the building while also helping with the construction. Taiju then tells Beck that he might just accept what he proposed to him earlier. Beck is surprised that Taiju has finally made up his mind, and he reveals that Seok came to see him earlier that day. He mentions that the meeting with the dude gave him certainty, and Beck becomes worried when he hears that he met with Seok. He asks him if he didn't hurt him, but Taiju assures him that he is fine because the dude only threatened him a little. However, this only reminded him of how people without power are being treated. Because of this, he decides that he is going to establish a pharmaceutical company just as Beck had suggested, and he wants Beck to continue to help him out. Beck agrees to this, and Taiju urges him to finish up the construction, while revealing that he is going to be away for a while. He mentions that he is just going to be away until the company is established because he is trying to develop some new drugs. Talking about the Chaos Formless Poison Spirit art, it is the exclusive martial art created by Tang. It basically combines the clan's basic mental cultivation method, the 5 elements Qi cultivation, with enlightenment from various martial arts, and it consists of a total of 10 stars. The 1st to 2nd star is poison essence creation, the 3rd to 4th star is antidote production, the 5th to 6th star is poison energy emission, the 7th to 9th star is poison physique, sword energy projection, and hidden weapon recovery, while the 10th star is poison spirit manifestation. After the 10th star, one is required to awaken the poison spirit through enlightenment. Apparently, only those who have attained the poison spirit can use the secret technique called 10,000 torrential petal rain, which Tang used in melting down the heavenly demon, the ruler of the demonic cult. Meanwhile, Taiju is stuck in Mount Jiri, taking down poisonous monsters. He runs into a poison claw lynx, which is as big as a tiger, and thanks to how tough the monster is, he almost runs out of internal energy and weapons. Since his current level is the 3rd star, he figures out that he is somewhere between a second-rate and first-rate martial artist of the Jianghu. Taiju is not happy with his current level because he believes that it is still shameful, and this is why he has been stuck on the mountain absorbing the poison of magical beasts. He checks out the poison sac of the beast he just defeated and realizes that it is quite huge. Since he has all the memories from Tang, cultivating poisons is a no-brainer for him. He is convinced that as long as he continues consuming new poisons, he can grow really quickly. Because his body was slow to adapt at some point, it left him stuck at the 3rd star. However, his body has now stabilized, and advancing to the next stage will be no issue. Taiju is convinced that if he absorbs the poison of the spore poison water deer he was targeting, it would be sufficient. After he is done with the lynx, Taiju remembers that he has to recover his expensive daggers. Moments later, he finds the spore poison water deer, which is a docile, non-hostile magical beast with 2 humps on its back like a camel. Without hesitation, he takes off the deer's head, and the reason why the deer is feared immediately comes to life. Apparently, when it dies, its humps burst, thus scattering microscopic and extremely toxic spores. The spores surround Taiju's location, and it is said that the poison melts gas mask filters. It also takes an hour for the spores to dissipate when exposed to the air, and just by touching it, Taiju has no choice but to admit that it is the strongest poison he has encountered so far. Taiju immediately gets to work because he is not about to let the poison go to waste. He focuses on condensing the poison energy to absorb it into his body, while using the poison spirit art to convert it into internal energy. He knows that doing this will immediately propel him to reach the 4th star, and hours later, he is still circulating his Qi after absorbing the poison. Because the amount of poison he absorbed is so much that it made it difficult to convert it to internal energy. This leaves him wondering if he got greedy, but at the same time he is not worried because he already understands the toxic properties, which makes it easier to develop an antidote for it. In addition, he is convinced that the Earth has more diverse poisons than the martial world, and by using this advantage, he plans to get stronger much faster because he doesn't plan to remain weak like before again. After hours of intense Qi circulation, he finally reaches the 4th star, and he can feel the energy brewing in his body. Taiju gets up and figures out that he has been on the mountain for quite some time. However, it is not a waste because he was able to reach the 4th star faster and also got the ingredients for the spore poison water deer antidote. He decides that it is time for him to head back, and he remembers that things might have gone out of hand, thanks to YJ Pharmacy. Not long after this, he returns to the drugstore and he finds the store practically empty. He assumes that business has been going really well. Beck is thankful that he is finally back after 2 weeks because he was worried that something had happened since he couldn't reach him by phone. Taiju mentions that his phone was off because he was training while also developing an antidote. Taiju realizes that Beck and his assistant look worried and disturbed, forcing him to ask what the issue is. Beck mentions that the pharmaceutical company reps had said they won't supply them anymore, and they even took everything away. As if this wasn't bad enough, the Autonomy Committee's drug approval department asked them to send the ingredient list to investigate side effects from the antidote. When Taiju hears this, he asks Beck if he thinks it is Seok's doing, and Beck replies that he is not certain, but it is the same method that Seok usually uses when things are not going his way. He mentions that the dude is also a member of the Autonomy Committee. Taiju asks Beck what would happen if they don't supply the ingredients, and Beck says they might face a sales ban. Taiju is left to wonder if the committee member dispatched from the Empire is also working with Seok to have turned a blind eye to everything that is happening. He figures out that Seok is just starting with his trash attacks, just like the Juge clan. However, he just has to strike first, as Tang would do. Taiju then tells Beck what they are going to do, and he lets him know that the solution to their problem is to strike first so they can send a proper threat. Beck is confused by this, and Taiju reminds him that the committee claims that people got side effects from the antidote, so it is best they don't sell it anymore. Taiju then tells Beck to close up the shop with immediate effect. After closing down the shop, they head to the orphanage and Taiju provides the deer meat for them to have dinner. A taste of the spore deer meat sends Taiju into a foodgasmic state. It turns out that the meat has always been hailed as the best in the Empire. Taiju then realizes that the rumor that the Emperor has monopolized the carcasses is true because there is no known method to remove the poison. Taiju admits that he is happy he chose the water deer antidote to make. Basically, his original intention was just to prevent civilian casualties from the deer's poison during a magical beast wave. But with the meat's taste, he is pretty sure that anyone who tries will immediately become a slave to it. In fact, Beck and the kids love the meat so much that Taiju is already considering starting a water deer meat business. He thinks of supplying it to the Emperor, who is obsessed with the meat, while casually checking out his swordsmanship because there are rumors that he is at the Grandmaster level. After they are done eating, Beck thanks Taiju for providing such good meat, while expressing his surprise that the new antidote is for the terrifying water deer. Beck admits that Taiju is amazing, but he is worried about the closure of the pharmacy. Taiju urges Beck to trust him and just wait for what would happen. He wants to see who is going to regret not selling the antidote. 5 days later, Park shows up at Beck's drugstore, and he is shocked to find out that the store is still closed. Park is worried because he only has a few bottles of the antidote left, and there is no way he is going hunting without it. Some Awakeners show up too, and they believe that the rumor being spread might be true. The rumor going around is that the antidote makes people sick after taking it, which is why the Autonomy Committee demanded the formula to be made public. But Beck couldn't handle the pressure and closed the shop. Park can't believe that these are the stupid rumors going around because he is a living proof of someone who has taken all of Beck's medicines and nothing has happened to him. Suddenly, they feel an overwhelming presence on the scene, and it turns out to be Yoonghak. Park is surprised that the captain of the vigilante group is at the scene, leaving him to wonder if he's involved with YJ Pharmacy. Yoonghak then tells the Awakeners standing there that the decision to close the drugstore was made by the committee, and it is going to stand until the formula analysis is complete. Yoonghak tells the Awakeners to make themselves scarce because he doesn't want to see them loitering around there. Park argues with him, saying the whole thing is ridiculous because he was part of the clinical trials and nothing has happened to him. Park asks Yoonghak how they are supposed to hunt without the antidote. He wants to know if they are saying they should go back to wearing insect-proof suits. The other Awakeners soon join him in protesting, telling Yoonghak that they are not ready to go back to the old days. They demand that the committee allow Beck to sell the antidotes or bring a witness who has suffered the said side effects because they believe Yoonghak and the powerful Awakeners don't mind since they are immune to poison. Yoonghak is surprised that the Awakeners have the guts to talk back to him, and he initially thinks of killing them, but changes his mind. He tells them to get lost before he kills them. Deep down, Yoonghak is pissed that the administrative officer is getting him to do his dirty work, all because of the majority vote. Slowly, the Awakeners start leaving one by one except for the loyal Park. Yoonghak is pissed when he realizes that he is the last man standing, and he is about to draw his sword to kill him for thinking he is bluffing when Park runs off, apologizing for daring him. Yoonghak is left disgusted by the mess he has to clean up, and he thinks of teaching Seok a lesson for trying to manipulate the standing committee. Meanwhile, Seok is in his car, and he is on a call with the administrative officer. He expresses his gratitude that the man has Yoonghak under his thumb, and the administrative officer tells him that Yoonghak might be a master ranker, but he is still one of the 3 standing committee members. He lets him know that as long as he and the chairman Min are present, there is nothing Yoonghak can do against the majority rule, because he has to stick to maintaining public order, just like he is currently doing. He adds that Yoonghak doesn't actually care, as long as lines aren't crossed, because all he cares about is the city. Seok then tells the administrative officer that everything is going to be wrapped up smoothly as long as they are able to get Yoonghak out of the way. Since the next phase is about to start, Seok assures the administrative officer that he is going to reward him, while claiming that Baek won't be able to last more than a week unless money suddenly falls from the sky. Meanwhile, Taeju is in a meeting with General Hyung, and he lets the general know that he is going to supply 1 million bottles to his defense corps. He mentions that the price will remain at 50,000 won per bottle, and the moment he says this, Hyung's expression suddenly goes cold. Taeju is left wondering what might be wrong with the dude. He thinks he is pissed because he is offering the antidote to the military at the regular price. However, Hyung's assistant tells Taeju that the commander is actually in a good mood. Just then, Hyung asks Taeju if he has to sell it cheaply for them, and Taeju is shocked to hear that the price is considered cheap. Hyung turns to his assistant, asking him if they can get 50 billion won from their reserve fund, and he says yes. Hyung then tells his assistant to deposit half of it immediately as a down payment. Just then, Taeju tells Hyung that he has one more product to offer, and Hyung is surprised that Taeju is not selling only the mosquito antidote. Taeju reveals that he is trying to establish his own company soon, so he recently developed another medicine. He brings out the deer meat, telling Hyung to have a taste. Hyung assumes that it is regular meat, and he reveals that he doesn't want to eat it because he is watching his health. Taeju then tells him to present it to the emperor instead because he is definitely going to love it, since it is the spore poison water deer meat. Hyung and his assistant are left in shock when they hear this, because this is a meat that is said to taste like heaven, with juice coming out like a fountain. Hyung expresses his admiration for Taeju and wastes no time asking him if he would like to re-enlist in the military because they need people like him. But Taeju's facial expression alone shows that he is not interested. After the meeting with Taeju, Hyung stands by the window of his office, thinking about his journey so far. He talks about how it is his job to control magical beast waves on the border zone while maintaining the magical beast population. Basically, he was upset when he was appointed as the commander because if he successfully held off the magical beasts at the border, it would be considered a regular day, but if he failed, he had to take responsibility. However, after a while, an opportunity came to him. He asks his assistant about the water deer antidote, and his assistant lets him know that everything has already been sorted just like he instructed. The assistant tells Hyung that it is just as he suspected because the reason they traded with them is due to their conflict with the pharmacy association led by Seok. His assistant adds that they have also worked on the newspaper matter he instructed them to work on, and the news about the military signing a deal for the antidote and the water deer hunt will be released the next day. Hyung is pleased with his assistant's work, and he tells him to keep an eye on Taeju while urging him to help Taeju if he needs it. Just then, Hyung thanks his assistant for helping him so far, and the dude takes a deep breath in relief because his master finally recognizes his hard work over the years. Suddenly, Hyung grabs his assistant and draws him in for a hug, telling him that it is time for them to use the opportunity to rise all the way to the imperial family. The assistant assures Hyung that he believes in him and will continue to follow him. The noise of celebration from the two almost shakes down the walls of the building, leaving the other personnel terrified. Later on, Baek and Taeju meet at his home, and Baek tells him that the company will soon be established, and all that is left for him is to pick a name. Taeju thanks Baek for his hard work while also expressing his relief that the deal with the military was successful. In fact, he is glad that Hyung set the stage for them, ultimately saving them the trouble by leaking their contract with the military and the new development of a drug as exclusive news. Taeju can see that the dude didn't get to the position of a commander via dumb luck. Taeju tells Baek that with everything going on, the tide has turned in their favor. Apparently, Baek has also been able to repay the loan he took with the down payment that they got from the military. In fact, Baek canceled all the accounts he had with the bank out of spite. Taeju is pleased with his work, and he urges him to use the remaining money to manage the orphanage. Just then, Taeju tells Baek that he has thought very well about it, and he doesn't think he will be able to run the company by himself. He lets Baek know that he needs a reliable partner, and he asks Baek if he is open to becoming his business partner. Baek is surprised to hear this, and he tells Taeju that all he has ever done is run a small pharmacy, so he doesn't think he is going to be of much help. Taeju disagrees with him, saying the only thing he knows how to do is to make medicine, and he doesn't even know how to sell it. Taeju informs him that he cannot do the business without his help. Baek is blown away by just how much Taeju thinks of him. Baek then agrees to be his partner, but says it is going to be on a 9-to-1 split, and Taeju will be getting the larger share. However, Taeju disagrees, and he suggests that they make it a 7-to-3 split. Baek agrees to this, but lets Taeju know that he is not going to be the one running it because there is someone else who is more capable. It turns out that this person was raised in the orphanage too, and Baek tells Taeju that he has met her already. The person he is talking about is Soyeon, and Baek mentions that she is the smartest among his children. He asks Taeju if he is cool with it so he can call her immediately. Deep down, Taiju is impressed at how Beck has been running everything because he has raised children who have entered society with various professions, which is basically his superpower. Taiju assures Beck that he is open to working with anyone who is capable, and the two shake hands to seal the deal. Taiju then tells Beck that a company name just came to his mind. He reveals that the name is Taihong Bio, which is a combination of both their names. Beck is pleased with the name and he assures Taiju that he is going to get it registered immediately. In addition, he mentions that he has called in awakened persons who grew up in the orphanage so that they can protect Taiju as bodyguards. Taiju asks him why he did this, and he reveals that Seok might want to use force, so he wants the fellows to protect him. Taiju assures Beck that he is fine, and he suggests that the fellows protect the orphanage instead. Deep down, Beck wonders what Taiju is relying on, which is making him so confident. Since Taiju doesn't have a mark on his face, Beck believes that he is not awakened, and he wonders if Taiju is relying on his past military strength. Taiju can see the worry on his face, and he asks him why he is still showing so much distrust after everything he has shown him. However, Beck assures him that he trusts him, revealing that there is no one else he would trust more than him. Taiju then decides to clear the air, and he tells Beck to call the awakened fellas, who are supposed to be his bodyguards, because he would like to prove his abilities, while testing the spore poison antidote. With a smile on his face, Taiju tells Beck that he would like to go hunting with the bunch. Not long after this, Taiju and the group head to Mount Jiri, and the leader of the group, Beck Chang-hoon, is blown away by Taiju's immaculate 4 billion won coat. Since Taiju is the one leading the line, the dude taps him on the back, suggesting that he leads the line instead because magical beasts will appear anytime soon. However, Taiju strictly tells the dude not to call him boss, but to address him as brother. Chang-hoon agrees to this and reiterates what he said, urging Taiju to step behind him because they are supposed to protect him. Taiju stays silent, and the dude apologizes if his words are out of line. However, Taiju tells him that there is nothing to apologize for because he is already used to it, since he is not an awakened person. He then tells him that they are going to talk more about it after they take out the lurking danger. Chang-hoon is confused as he has no idea what Taiju is talking about, but suddenly he looks up to see storm weasels leaping toward them like bees. As the squad panics, Taiju reaches into his underpockets and whips out 2 sets of throwables, which he hurls at the monsters. In just one sweep, Taiju wipes out the monsters with his throwables that put Chang-soon in shock because even a user rank like himself cannot even touch them that easily. Taiju, on the other hand, is not really impressed because he easily wiped out the monsters without being able to use the willow leaf flying daggers. He only used the anti-personnel hidden weapons, the needles and iron pellets, but the issue is that over 200 hidden weapons are entirely unrecoverable. Because of how much the hidden weapon costs, Taiju is always wishing that he had reached the 7th star of the poison art, so he can easily stretch out his hand to recover them. Chang-soon is forced to ask him if he is a master ranker because only they can hide their markings. Taiju assures the dude that he is not even an awakener, but assures him that he is going to take the lead from that moment on. Chang-soon tries to stop him, reminding him of what his father said, but he quickly retreats since he has seen what Taiju is capable of doing. Not long after this, they find a water deer, and Chang-soon asks Taiju what he is planning to do. Taiju tells Chang-soon that the deer is confident that people won't go after it because of its poison, but it is about to awaken. He then tells the group to use the medicine, and Chang-soon hesitates because he doesn't know if it is going to work. However, he is able to push through his fear when he realizes that he is already in the same boat as his father, so he has to trust Taiju just the same way his father did. Since Taiju made the antidote and even showed them his power, he believes that they have to prove themselves too. Chang-soon drinks up the antidote and tells Taiju that he will be the one to make the first move. Chang-soon pulls out his weapon, leaving a shocking expression on the deer's face, since it doesn't expect someone to be stupid enough to come after it. Chang-soon confirms the deer's fear when he lunges toward it, and the deer uses its last resort weapon by screaming out. The scream is so deafening that the rest of the group, except Taiju and Chang-soon, have to block their ears. Chang-soon engages his cutting skill and decapitates the deer. The moment he does, the humps on the deer's back blow, scattering the spores. The team panics, and even Taiju is worried deep down, but he heaves a sigh of relief the moment he realizes that the antidote actually works. In addition, he is impressed that Chang-soon has guts, and the rest of the team starts talking about how nice the antidote is because they are basically walking amidst the spores with no fear. Taiju then turns to Chang-soon, asking him if he now believes him because with the antidote it is easy to take on the deer, since it is all bark and no bite. Chang-soon and the rest of the group offer their apologies for not believing in him, and Taiju suggests that they continue the hunt since there is no issue. However, he urges them to butcher the deer first because once the antidote is released, the water deer will be hunted to extinction. Meanwhile, in New Seoul, Soyeon is seen working in a big company as one of the youngest managers. Soyeon is going about her day when her boss shows up to talk to her about her father. Soyeon wonders what the dude wants from her, and her boss tells her to drop all the projects she is working on at the moment because he wants her to head down to Guri and do a favor for him. He shows Soyeon a news article about the startup pharmaceutical company that her father is working on. Soyeon is shocked to hear this because her father never mentioned anything like this to her. Her boss tells her that he doesn't really care about her, and all that he wants is for her to go down to Guri. He urges her to stick close to her father, dig up the info on the antidote, and secure the formula too. He threatens her by reminding her of who they really work for, while reminding her that if she can handle it properly, things will change for her. Soyeon cannot believe that her boss is seriously asking her to betray her father, and just then, she gets a call from her father. She tells the man to give her a minute while she talks to her father. Her boss suggests that she make it brief so she can make a decision quickly. After the call with her father, Soyeon appears to be all smiley and bright. Just then, her boss asks her if she has finally made her decision, and Soyeon frowns at the dude, telling him that she has. She lets him know that she is going to go to Guri, and the man is about to start celebrating when Soyeon throws her work card at him, telling him that she is quitting the crappy company. She walks past him while scolding him for always looking down on people, even though he is pretty short. As she walks away, her boss screams at her, asking her if she knows just how much of a wrong decision she is about to make, but Soyeon flips him off. When Taiju and the others finally return to his building, Taiju told them to go get a rest, assuring them that he was going to handle the rest. Changsoon is hesitant because of his father's orders to protect Taiju, but Taiju asks him if he thinks he is the one who needs protection after what he witnessed that day. He urges him to return to the orphanage and protect Baek and the kids instead. Changsoon agrees with Taiju, and he tells his siblings to pack up so that they can return to the orphanage. Deep down, Taiju is not really worried because he believes that the orphanage is going to be safe since it is the only one in the city, and touching it would draw the anger of the citizens. At the same time, he is worried because there are plenty of crazy people in this world, and especially in Guri. Taiju knows he needs people like Changsoon because once the company is established and they hire enough people to process the antidote ingredients, he will have some breathing room to develop new medicines. Even though his plan was just to settle down when he came to the city, he has somehow gotten himself entangled in something much bigger. Nonetheless, Taiju is not entirely pissed about it because it is thanks to the crazy things he got involved in that he was able to buy the mansion where he now lives. Taiju still feels really weird because he can't believe that he now has his own house. Taiju recounts his life so far and realizes that the good people he met are the biggest blessings to his life. Taiju lies on his bed, thinking about how Guri is about to become the foundation for him to proudly stand on his own. Meanwhile, some bad guys have arrived outside his mansion, and the leader of the group is Sang-shik. Shik is surprised that Taiju is a newcomer, but he already has a mansion, and one of his boys lets him know that he made the money from the antidote. Shik screams at the dude, telling him that he is not dumb and he knows this fact. Shik mentions that he would have just kidnapped Taiju for himself if not for the order that came from Seok. The bad guys then pick Taiju's lock and make their way into his house. Shik tells his people not to talk to Taiju once they reach his living room and just stick the syringe into his neck. They plan to quietly take Taiju away once the drug kicks into his system. Moments later, they arrive at Taiju's room, and one of them tries to push the syringe into Taiju's neck, but he suddenly grabs him. Taiju admits that he was contemplating whether he should allow them to push the syringe into him. Shik screams at his subordinate to go ahead and push the syringe into Taiju, and the dude reveals that he is trying, but his hand can't move. Just then, Taiju collects the syringe from him, telling them that he knows that they were there from the start. Taiju teases them, talking about how much he hates needles because they hurt, and the confidence brewing from Taiju's body starts to tell the bad guys that they might have screwed up. Taiju continues teasing them, asking if the drugs inside the syringe would still work the same if he drinks it orally. Shik is trembling, but he tries to act tough, yelling at Taiju for stealing his drug. Suddenly, his shoulders drop when he watches as Taiju pours the contents of the syringe into his mouth like it is jelly. The moment he gets a taste of it, Taiju realizes that it is drugs, and he taunts Shik, asking him if he has more that he can take. Apparently, there have always been rumors that a syndicate in the city slums was distributing drugs, and since the syndicate can't be stopped, Taiju figures out that there is someone in a high-ranking position in the city who is backing them. These drugs that have been causing so much destruction are now in his presence. Since drugs are also a type of poison with new properties he hasn't tasted before, his body will process them. Basically, Tang also encountered all sorts of drugs when he roamed the martial world, and this is why Taiju is absorbing the drugs to increase the attainment of his poison essence. Taiju also goes ahead to absorb the drugs from the bad guys, leaving Shik totally shocked. Taiju then asks him who ordered him, but he is scared to talk, and Taiju takes him through a rigorous process of completely absorbing the drug properties from his body to make him relapse. The next day, Junghak is seen heading to Taiju's mansion. It turns out that Taiju has made a report about the break-in. In addition, Junghak learns that Taiju has already figured out that Seok was the one who sent Shik and his men after he interrogated them. Because of this, they are asking the vigilante group to take the bad guys away and conduct a thorough investigation to prove their reliability. Yoonghak is pissed that Seok started something and couldn't finish it properly. Yoonghak is not really worried about Taiju because he is just a newcomer, but the person he is worried about is Bak, who is far too respected in the city. Even though dragging Seok in and forcing a settlement would be the best way out, he is pretty sure that there is no way Seok would agree to that because he is too stubborn. In the end, Yoonghak is worried that the conflict will just continue to drag on. Since Taiju wants a thorough investigation, it is just going to be another burden on him. Not long after this, Yoonghak and his men arrive at Taiju's house, and Baek walks over to welcome them. However, Yoonghak walks past him like he doesn't even exist. One of Yoonghak's men urges Baek to step aside, and Yoonghak moves over to where Shik and his men are kneeling. He suddenly sentences Shik to death under the authority given to him by the Emperor, and he pulls out his sword, ready to decapitate Shik, but Taiju blocks the attack with one of his throwing weapons. Taiju tells him to halt, while asking him why he is trying to kill the witness. Taiju shows Yoonghak a recording of Shik and his men confessing to what Seok made them do. Taiju then says he can already see that Yoonghak knows what is happening, which is why he wants to cover it up. Yoonghak angrily demands to know who Taiju is, and he introduces himself. Yoonghak then figures out that Taiju is the antidote maker. Yoonghak moves closer to stare at his face, and it dawns on him that he has seen Taiju somewhere before. He racks his brain and quickly figures out that Taiju was the porter he met on the mountain. Yoonghak asks him if he is the one who made the antidote, and Taiju says yes. Yoonghak then tells Taiju that he doesn't really care because his word is the law as long as they are in the city. He grabs his sword, suggesting that they kill the 4 bad guys so they can forget about everything, but Taiju refuses. Yoonghak then dares Taiju to try to stop him, and he dashes toward Shik, aiming to cut his head, but Taiju unleashes a ton of daggers on him. Yoonghak cuts down the daggers, but one of them grazes his hand. He commends Taiju, saying it doesn't appear that he is an ordinary fellow because he managed to leave a scratch on him. Yoonghak then decides to sentence Taiju to death for interfering with a master twice. Taiju is not scared, and he tells Yoonghak that he is curious to see what gives Yoonghak the right to act the way he does. Taiju attacks Yoonghak, but releases a new set of daggers. Just as the two are about to engage in a fierce battle, a familiar voice screams out from an incoming chopper, telling them to stop. Just then, Hyung and 3 other fellas leap out from the chopper and land between Yoonghak and Taiju. Hyung then tells Yoonghak to stop whatever it is that he is doing. Yoonghak asks Hyung why he came all the way to the Free City, and Hyung demands to know if he needs permission to come. Yoonghak then concludes that he is basically using the military to intervene in Guri's affairs, but Hyung assures him that he is not there as a soldier. He lets him know that he is just a civilian, and he suggests that they go their separate ways. Hyung walks over to Taiju to ask him if he is hurt anywhere, but Taiju assures him that he is fine. It turns out that the trio who followed Hyung are also Master Awakeners, and they are all Major Generals too. In fact, the trio is ready to die for Taiju and kill for him, whom they consider their benefactor. Yoonghak is shocked to see how the military men are relating to Taiju as if they are friends. He wonders if he already knows them through his father's connections. Yoonghak knows that he has to be careful around the 4, since they are military men and masters for that matter. Yoonghak decides to retreat, but promises to repay the humiliation later. Yoonghak informs the group that he is leaving, and Hyung teases him, telling him to stick around a little. Yoonghak yells at Hyung, telling him that he is not as free as he and his people. Hyung smiles while telling Yoonghak that it is expected of him. Yoonghak is confused by this, and Hyung tells him that since he claims to be so busy, he should have taken care of the bad guys in the city a long time ago. He taunts him, telling him that he is willing to provide some backup if it appears that the bad guys are too much for the vigilante group to handle. Yoonghak says there is no need for this, and he tells his men to load up Shik and his collaborators so that they can deal with them later. However, Hyung lets Yoonghak know that Shik and his men are coming with him. Yoonghak angrily reminds Hyung that he already said the military is not getting involved, and Hyung tells Yoonghak that the bad guys tried to kidnap a close friend of his, so he has to step in. It soon escalates into a face-off, and Yoonghak tells Hyung that what he is doing is a clear violation of the imperial decree. He tries to drag the emperor's name into it, and it is at this point that Hyung unleashes his aura, asking Yoonghak if he thinks they are on the same level just because they are both masters. Hyung's aura sends chills down Yoonghak's spine, and Hyung lets him know that he can kill him right there without any consequence. Yoonghak starts to tremble, and the other major generals surround him, making fun of him, telling him that they are ready to kill him if Hyung gives the order. Even Yoonghak's people are already trembling, and the moment Yoonghak realizes that he can't handle the situation, he pulls back his men, telling them that they are retreating. After he is gone, Taiju thanks Hyung for his help, but Hyung assures him that he has nothing to worry about because they are already in the same boat. Baek also thanks Hyung for showing up on such short notice because he was the one who quickly contacted the general. Hyung says it is a good thing that he called because the situation has now been resolved. Hyung then tells Taiju that he is going to handle Shik and his men himself. In addition, he is going to handle their backer, who is obviously shocked. Taeju doesn't want Hyung to worry about it because it is a personal matter, but Hyung tells him that it is not only his problem because if he runs into any complication, which results in the disruption of the antidote, it would put the core's safety on the line. Taeju then agrees to Hyung's proposal to handle the whole thing, and Hyung assures Taeju that he is going to tie up all loose ends, so he doesn't have anything to worry about. Taeju is left to think about Jungkook, and he can clearly remember that Jungkook got hit with one of the flying daggers, but he showed no symptoms of poisoning until the point that he left. Taeju believes that things could have turned out badly for him if Hyung hadn't shown up. Because of this, Taeju concludes that he is still weak, and he needs to get stronger, so that something like that never happens again. On the other hand, as Jungkook returns to his office, he notices that the scratch he sustained is still fresh, which is weird. He wonders if it is poison, and before he knows it, it starts to spread across his body. In no time, his body is already turning green with his veins protruding. He screams in pain, and he screams at his assistant to get him to the hospital immediately. With death staring him in the face, Jungkook is left wondering what Taeju has done to him. Later on, as Hyung and his men travel back to base, Hyung tells his men to dump Shik and his gang into the ocean, since they have already figured out everything that they need to know. The bad guys scream to be spared, but Hyung ignores their cry as they are all pushed out of the chopper. After they are done, Hyung tells his men that the next person on the list to be taken care of is Seok. In addition, he orders that some troops be deployed to Taehong-bio to protect the place. It appears that Hyung is ready to use the opportunity to establish a connection with Taeju. Meanwhile, Soyeon has arrived at Gurye City Airport, and she gets a call from her brother, who fills her in on everything that Taeju has done for the family and the orphanage. With a bright smile on her face, she tells Changsoon that she will soon get home. She then tells the taxi to take her to Beck's orphanage, and she finds it hard to hide the smile on her face because she finally understands why her father called her home. Not long after this, she arrives at the orphanage to find them cooking a feast. Her father runs over to welcome her, thanking her for coming over. She asks him if there is a special occasion, and he reveals that they caught a water deer, so they are preparing it. Soyeon is shocked to hear this, and it dawns on her that Changsoon wasn't lying about what he said. Beck then suggests that they go see Taeju, who is feeding the kids. Beck then introduces Soyeon to Taeju, but he is not entirely surprised to see her because they have met before. Soyeon is shocked to see that Taeju still remembers her, and she apologizes for her rudeness the last time they met. She promises Taeju that she is going to grow the company properly, and Taeju is glad for the assurance. Just then, Hyung's assistant, Min-soo, and 19 other soldiers show up on the scene, telling Taeju that they have been assigned as Taehong-bio's security detail. Taeju thanks them for coming, but lets them know that living quarters might be a problem because of the number of people they have to accommodate. However, Min-soo assures him that he has nothing to worry about because they brought their encampment gear with them. The two shake hands on it, and Taeju lets him know that he looks forward to working with him. Min-soo assures him that he will put his life on the line for him, and Taeju suggests that they get things running with a water deer soup. Min-soo orders his men to unpack immediately and eat afterward. Taeju is blown away by how far things have come for him because he is no longer alone, as he now has a faction of his own. Later on at Guri Castle, Seok is brought in front of the Autonomous Committee for his offenses. They ask him if he admits the charges, and he reluctantly does. After leaving the room, Seok groans in pain because he was thrown under the bus by the people he is working with. He is also worried that he hasn't been able to contact Shik, and this is when he decides that he just has to lie low for things to eventually subside. Moments later, Seok's car stops at a red light, and suddenly, a masked man appears on a motorbike. The masked man breaks his car window with a bat before killing Seok and pushing his car into the river. After doing this, he contacts his boss, telling them that he is done with the mission and he is now returning to base.